What is going on, everyone? My name is Jared, and today, on the very special 4th of July, happy 4th of July, everyone, we're going to talk about something probably relevant to if you're going to be outdoors, and it is IP ratings and what do they actually mean. So back in the day, your smartphone was definitely not protected against water, and you had to buy things like these life-proof cases or another sort of like water-sealed pouch, or people would even use Ziploc bags if they were going to the beach so that they didn't want to have water or dust and sand get into their device. Harmful water would put a device right out. You'd have to soak it in rice or do all the different tricks, pull the battery, and since then, devices now have IP ratings, so things from iPhones to Galaxies to Huawei devices to your wearable smartwatches and fitness bands all have an ingress protected rating. That's what IP stands for. And usually people will say it's IP67, IP68. Well, actually those numbers don't go together. So the technically correct way of saying it would be an IP68 rating or an IP67 rating. Those are the two most common, and that's what I'm going to refer to a lot in this video. So the first number in IP, the first number is talked about dust. Now, personally, I haven't seen many recent smartphones that when they are given an IP rating don't have the 6. And what the 6 actually stands for is completely dust tight. That means your smartphone sealed is not going to get any dust inside the actual components of the phone, inside by the logic board, inside by the camera lens from its factory state. Of course, if you drop your device, you get cracks, you get drops. That ruins your IP rating, and then dust and debris can get in. The second number has to deal with liquid. And contrary to popular belief, the higher the number doesn't necessarily mean the better the rating. It just is a specific rating. So the iPhone, for example, is IP67, which generally means it can survive around 30 minutes in about a meter of water. Now, that can be a generous measurement, meaning that it can survive longer, and people on YouTube certainly have pushed that to the max to see how much their iPhone can take in this new water-resistant era. And they do that by gluing everything together, putting seals and O-rings around your lightning port, putting seals and glue around the glass back, around the front screen. Everything is now glued completely shut tight. So that is 67 or 67. Galaxy phones and a lot of other phones like Sony phones, the Xperia models specifically, are IP68 rated. And 68 rated is something also that you would get in a life-proof case. And generally what that means, it can survive about 3 meters of water for about an hour. Now again, that could be a generous rating. Certainly it could probably last longer, and I'm certain in probably some cases it'll last exactly that, because they do tests and those tests cost money, so they know this when they're putting out their device. For things like smartwatches, so this is the Catalyst watch case for Apple Watch Gen 3, and it actually is 330 feet or 100 meters water resistant. None of these things are waterproof. So, the contrary to popular belief, these phones are not waterproof, meaning they eventually will get water into them. One way or another, water will get in, and a lot of that has to do with pressure. So, you drop your phone in the toilet. Even now, some smartphones like the OnePlus 6, who doesn't have an official ingress protected rating, you could probably drop it in the sink, drop it in the toilet, it'll more than likely be fine. And a lot of phones do that. I think the Motorola, the Moto series now, has the coating, which makes it water repellent. But none of these are actually waterproof. Nothing is permanently sealed 100% from water. So even with life-proof cases, this Catalyst case for the Apple Watch, that has a remarkable 100 feet or 330 feet, 100 meter rating, and it's still calling it IP68 rated, which if you actually look up at the chart, which I have pulled up right next to the side of me, the actual definition of the 8 and 6.8 is the equipment is suitable for continuous immersion in water under conditions which shall be specified by the manufacturer. Normally this will mean that the equipment is hermetically sealed. However, certain types of equipment, it can mean water can enter, but only in such a manner that it has no such harmful effects. So actually, the actual Apple Watch Gen 3 is IP68 rated, and it does have your speaker grill, your microphone grill, and it has a nice little mechanism for blowing water out. So water does, in fact, get in, but it just doesn't get into anything important. Same with smartphones and their charging port, their headphone jack. Galaxy phones have been doing this now for several generations. They are IP68 rated, and they still have their headphone jack, the charging port, various other areas, speaker grill, microphone. All those things are still open, and water does get in, but it's all sealed away from the outside. So I bring this up because I think IP rating is something that's very misunderstood. And for me, when I first looked it up, I would look at the iPhone, oh, this is IP67, versus the Galaxy, oh, this is IP68. Obviously, the Galaxy is that much better. But in reality, it's just a small difference in classification. Yes, it has been tested. The Galaxy, most of the time, will outlast an iPhone in a water test. But a lot of things have to do with that. Pressure, like I said, if it's salt water, or like a pool, chemical water, or fresh water, like in a lake or a stream or whatever. All that has to do with how the device is going to survive. And salt water and chemically treated water is going to obviously do different damages than just fresh water. So salt water tends to corrode and leave pockets of salt around, which can create some electrical problems. Chemically treated water, say like a pool with a lot of chlorine, can corrode contacts. Chlorine is a corrosive, meaning that when it comes in contact with metal, it's not going to rust it, but it's going to corrode it. Like if you leave a battery in something for too long, you get that white, crusty green stuff going on. That's corrosion, and that'll make it so electrical contacts don't really make good contact. So I talk about this especially around the summer, especially, I've been around the pool a lot the last couple of days, and I actually have been doing several tests of my own between the LifeProof, and I actually have the Catalyst case for the Apple Watch, as well as the Catalyst case for iPhone. And the thing that I always found out to be something that I don't necessarily care for is you have this plasticky front screen. And of course, the LifeProof has the same thing. Every case manufacturer does it a little different, and I remember back in the day, LifeProof made the Nude series cases for, I believe, the iPhone 6 and 7, maybe the 8. What it did is it had a gasket around the front, so you could still touch the glass of your screen while having a actual water resistance rating with a case, and it wasn't too bulky. These guys, interfere with your screen sensitivity and things like that, but they are a really good way of adding just another layer of protection. Now, of course, using these is not guaranteeing your device safety. For example, the Catalyst has a gasketed plug on the bottom, so you always have to make sure if you are going to throw this in the pool or take it with you or take some pictures, whatever, that you have it nice and plugged in correctly. You got to also make sure that this back gasketed piece is nice and tight, and also make sure that the gasket has no debris on it when you're sealing the case together, like dust, hair, whatever. They always recommend you test these in the sink, whatever, for 30 minutes with a cup on them to make sure that the case doesn't leak right from the gate, and so that you don't have any misfortunes going ahead and throwing your phone in the pool. So I did that with the LifeProof case. Again, I've used LifeProof a ton. They have a clicked flap here, a little gate, I guess you would say, for their charging port. The two pieces snap together pretty easily. Everything's covered. They're not great for drop protection because they are just kind of flimsy plastic. They say about a 2 meter drop. Let me check the box. It says survives drops for 2 meters. So, for example, this spec case that I just have on the iPhone is for 10 feet. 2 meters is about 6.6 feet. So, a little different. They're not super protective, but they give you that water and dust resistance. So, IP ratings are definitely something that are getting more and more common. And one thing, like I was mentioning about the confusion, if you look at a Sony Xperia phone, like the new XZ2, which Sony did release, they actually have 2 IP ratings. It says an IP68 and an IP65. And like I mentioned before, the 2 numbers are different, and higher is not necessarily better. It just means something different. So a 5 rating on the water side of the scale actually means that the phone is protected by water jets. So it says specifically water projected by a nozzle 6.3 millimeters against enclosure from any direction shall have no harmful effects. So your IP68 Galaxy, maybe you take it and you have a hose, or I don't know what the pressure, I'm sure there's statistic on what the pressure is, but you spray it with a hose. Again, it's all about the pressure. That's why depth matters when you're doing when you're dropping your phone in the pool. 4 foot in the shallow end is a lot of different pressure than 8 foot in the deep end. If you ever dove or done scuba diving or anything like that, you learn how to let release air as you go down to make sure so your ears don't pop. And if you're scuba diving, you have to do controlled breathing on your way up so you don't get the bends or a lot of head problems later on. And that all has to do with the pressure of the water pushing down upon you. And that's where the phone fails. It fails because the pressure seeps into areas that maybe aren't as sealed as so good. So maybe like around the camera lens, the glass in the camera lens, maybe that microphone spot or that speaker grill, yeah, it has a gasket, and if you drop it quick in the water, be 100% fine, but that constant pressure against it, it could seep in. Water will get pretty much anywhere it has the availability to go. So I remind everyone this holiday season, as well as this summer, or if you're just around water in general, you're on vacation, you're near a pool, or you're doing whatever it is you're doing, if you are taking your device in with you, whether it be without a case, you can take your iPhone 10 in the pool. I wouldn't recommend it. You can. I kind of want to do it just to test it, but I wouldn't recommend it if that's your only device. Like I said, things with chemical reactions with the metals, with the chemicals and stuff could always play effect if you're taking it in the ocean. Salt could definitely make something change and something happen. And whether it's your iPhone, your Galaxy, your GoPro, whatever, I know they all have IP ratings and watertight compartments. Just be careful and maybe take a moment and share this video with a friend to kind of help explain what the difference is. So, 6.7 and 6.8 are certainly the most common. It's usually between 1 meter and what was the actual statistic? IP68, I believe, is 3 meters, around 10 feet of water. So around a meter to about 10 feet, you're good. You can drop your phone, dive with it quick, come out, and more than likely, you're going to be fine. Blow out on the ports if you have to, let it set out, let it dry off. You're probably going to have no problems. But again, manufacturers like Apple and Samsung and anyone who has ingress protection like Huawei, Sony, if you read their warranty, they do not protect against water damage. So even though they spend that time and put that rating and go through the trouble of testing their device to see just how much it can take, they won't protect against it if that's the reason for failure. So if you took your iPhone in and had water damage, there's indicators on the inside, little pads that turn red, little dots that will appear and disappear depending on if there is water added or water and moisture sensed, and they're able to know. You're not able to fool them if you take a phone that's been submersed in water and say, nope, nothing's happened, I don't know why it broke. And they'll open it up and they'll check the spots, they know them, and if it has water, they're not going to warranty your product. Now, I'm sure it's just they're covering their butts because they don't know where you're going to take it. I'm sure they tested it in a controlled scenario, in a lab, with fresh water or maybe even distilled water, something that they know is not going to affect any part of the device incorrectly. And maybe you're out there throwing it in the ocean and the salt bothers it. Like I said, the chemicals of a pool or a hot tub or heat or temperatures, anything like that, they're not going to cover it. So if you're at all thinking of taking it to the beach, even just as simple as go on Amazon, and here's another waterproof case from Ghost Tech. This one specifically is the Ghost Tech Atomic, I believe. Wasn't very expensive. I think this was $30. Again, test this first before you go out in the wild with it. But just a little bit of added security. So yes, this has its own rating, and it's not going to multiply your ratings and get a super rating. But what it'll do is it'll buy you some time if you drop it in the water. If it comes out of your pocket and you're trying to fish it out and find it to where you'll be safe. And if water gets in this case after a bit, you still have a little bit of time before it can get to the phone, and it does change how the water affects it. So I'm not advocating anyone going out and spending $90. LifeProof does have deals all the time to get their cases for around $40, which is a good deal. But take time, know what your IP ratings mean, know what they can and cannot do, and educate others. I've seen way too many people fling their phone into the pool thinking, no, it's good, and it comes out dead. So the last thing you want to not record your memories on your trip, on your holiday, whatever it is that you're doing, because your phone got wet. There's no reason for it anymore. Even if you buy one of those cheapy waterproof sacks to put them in, put your watch, put your money, whatever, so that, a wave comes up on the beach and you're safe. So anyway, that was my little, quick information session about IP ratings. Nothing to rant on this week. I'm just figure we'll keep it positive here this 4th of July. So anyway, hope you learned something today about IP ratings. They do matter and they are different. So now you can go out and someone says, yes, my phone is IP67 rated. You can correct them and say, no, it's actually IP67. 6 is for dust and 7 is for its water resistance. So help everyone learn a thing or two this summer season. So anyway, my name is Jared. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you come back to watch another video. I do appreciate it very much for everyone who's continued to watch and continue to support me on my channel. So thanks again, and I will see you all in the next video.